a snake, and he's only a helpless little child. His fingers are so tiny and so... His fingers are so delicate, they appear if you breathe on them, they may break. And he's smiling. They didn't want to come too close. They didn't know what to do. All they did is they remembered that Garuda is the special devotee of the Lord that likes to get snakes. So they all cried out from their heart of hearts, praying for the Lord to be saved. Here he was, the Lord of their life, and it appeared that he was about to die. How much do you love your own life? Well, we love Nimai millions and billions and trillions of quadrillions of times more than our own life. If your life is in danger, at risk, what is your emotion? Multiply by that infinitely. Nimai's life is at risk. And to invoke the Lord's protection, the Lord's blessing, they cried out for the Lord's devotee, Garuda, to save him. And they were crying out with tears of anguish in their hearts. Garuda, Garuda! Garuda! You're not in the pastime yet. I think you must be thinking about when is the moon going to rise, because we... so we could break our fast. Garuda, Garuda! Garuda, Garuda! Garuda, Garuda! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna! Much louder, please. Nimai's in the coils of a snake. Please understand that we are all now much more desperate than Draupadi was. Is that this was Anantashesha, who was coming to play with the Lord, his beloved. It was Balaram, it was Nityananda. Nityananda Balaram expanded himself in this form to get the association and do some seva for Gaur Hari. But they were thinking he was a monstrous, horrible snake. So Anantashesha saw that he was causing all the devotees so much fear and anxiety. So he uncoiled himself and slithered away to leave the place. And as he was slithering away, Nimai was chasing after him to grab his tail. But the relatives, as soon as they saw Nimai, they ran fast and scooped up little Nimai and picked him up and put him in the arms of Sachimata. Oh, Krishna saved our child. Krishna saved him. And meanwhile, as they were all chanting mantras to protect him and just in such relief, thanking God, Nimai kept crawling off Sachit, running after the snake, and they ran back. Vrindavan Das Thakur tells anyone who hears this story with faith and devotion will be forever liberated from the snake of birth and death. Hare Krishna. would induce all the young ladies and old ladies, all ladies of all ages, to sing the holy names. And when he just started to learn to walk, he would start dancing as they would chant. They would tell him, "Nimai, dance," and he would dance. And they would chant, and he would dance, and they would chant, and he would dance. In this way, he was like their little puppet. The Supreme Lord, the controller of all controllers. And he's totally under the control of these ladies. Dance, dance, Nimai. For their pleasure. And they would be laughing and laughing and laughing. And then you know what he did? Even though he just was learning walking, it describes that when he was first learning walking, he would hold on to a wall to try to balance himself, like this. And his parents would be watching, and he would be smiling, showing, I'm learning. And then he would let go of the wall, and he'd fall down. And he'd start crying, and they'd all start chanting the holy names like this. And then he would again hold on to the wall and let go and fall and cry, and everyone would chant, and he would smile. And eventually he learned how to walk on his own 2 tiny little lotus feet. Those little lotus feet, when he was just an infant child, before he even learned how to crawl, he was in a room in Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra in another room, and all of a sudden they heard all this noise, because Mumbai got up and broke every pot in the house and was throwing everything in the kitchen on the floor. And when they came in, they saw, because he didn't even know how to, he was just a few weeks old. He was still sitting there. And they saw everything around him. How is this possible? Then they saw these little footprints. You know what they thought? They thought that some demon was trying to hurt Nimai. But because Nimai was so pious, he couldn't hurt him, so the demon ruined everything in the house. And one day they heard little ankle bells jingling. Where's that coming from? And they saw footprints with all the signs of Krishna on the footprints. And Jagannath Mishra said, "Did you put ankle bells on Nimai today?" She said, "No, I didn't put ankle bells, but there's ankle bells jingling." So they went and they saw little Nimai with no ankle bells. And she picked him up to feed him milk. And as she was feeding him milk, she looked on his feet and she saw the same footprints on his feet. So as little Nimai was getting all the ladies to chant the holy names, and now he was walking and he was dancing for them, he would run out of the house onto the street of Navadvip, all alone, little boy. And he would beg people to give him bananas and coconuts. And he only had tiny little hands, so he could only hold 1 or 2 bananas at a time. So he'd go out, he'd beg for some bananas, and he'd run back, and for the ladies who were chanting for him, he'd give a banana. Then he'd run out and get a coconut and come and give another one a coconut. Then he'd run out and get some fused rice and give another one some fused rice. In this way, he was pleasing their hearts so much. These were the same ladies who in previous avatar were gopis in Vrindavan. And in his previous avatar, Krishna was stealing butter and yogurt and ghee and everything from the gopis. But this time, he was going out and begging people and then carrying it back to give them gifts of luscious foods. to reciprocate with their love and to show the world how much he is obliged to give the ultimate fruit, the ripened fruit of prema to anyone who pleases him by sincerely chanting his holy names. One day, little Nimai was just a tiny little boy, just walking. He was roaming around, and two thieves happened to see him. And that day, Sachi Devi decorated him with beautiful ornaments, some with gold and jewels and silver. And can you imagine if you're a vicious thief and you see a tiny little boy with gold and silver jewelry? This is it. Our worshipable goddess is fulfilling all our desires. But there were people all around, so they couldn't. According to Srila Prabhupada, their plan was to kill the child, to take him to a secret, secluded place, their hideout, kill him, and then take all the jewels. But somehow or other, they had to get him away from all these crowds. So they took some sandesh and said, little boy, eat the sandesh. We'll give you a ride. We'll take you home. And the little boy said, yes. So they put him on their shoulders, and they kept giving him sandesh, and he was just eating the sandesh one after another, riding on the back of their shoulders. And meanwhile, all these crowds of people were around, and they were saying, little boy, we're taking you home. And he's saying, yes. And with such evil intentions. Now, in Krishna Lila, we know the story of Trinavarta. He was a whirlwind sent by Kamsa who took Krishna for a ride. But he didn't give Krishna sandesh. He took him higher and higher into the sky, but Krishna enjoyed the ride, and ultimately he liberated Trinavarta. So Krishna was just smiling and laughing and enjoying and taking a nice ride by these thieves and eating sandesh. And they were under the influence of Yoga Maya. They thought they had come to their hideout where they were about to perform the deed of robbing the little boy. And they put him down. Little did they know that they were right in front of Nimai's house. In the meanwhile, Sachi Devi, Jagannath Mishra, and all the friends, Chandrasekhar, Malini, they were all looking everywhere for Nimai. Where is he? They were asking people, have you seen him? No, we haven't seen him. A long time went by, they couldn't find him anywhere. They were looking in all directions. They all returned still. And Jagannath Mishra, oh, he's back. And the thief, they were looking around. This isn't our hideout. This is Nimai's house. How did we get here? What happened? So they very discreetly saw that everyone was so much celebrating Nimai's arrival, nobody was looking at them, so they very, very discreetly ran away as fast as they could. And Jagannath Mishra asked Nimai, what happened? Where were you? And Nimai said, I was roaming through Navadvip and I got totally lost, and these two nice men, they picked me up and they carried me back home. And Jagannath Mishra said, well, we will give them a beautiful silken turban as an award to honor them. But then they couldn't find them anywhere. One who hears this story with faith gets the benediction of firm devotional service. And Gaur Hari, just as the thieves tried to steal Hari, tried to steal he who steals. And what was the result of those who tried to steal he who steals? By giving him a ride, Krishna saw the good in it. And by giving him sandash, patram pushpam palam toyam, they were offering him sweets. Imagine, great Brahmins, when you offer Naivedha to the Lord, you cook it in a certain way, you offer it with mantra and tantra and yantra and puja and puja. They didn't offer any mantras. They didn't, what is the mantra for offering food? They weren't going, Namo Brahman Nidagaya Go Brahmani Chaya Chachikarataya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namo. He was accepting their offering. And because he accepted their offering, he stole their hearts. And ultimately gave those thieves the highest perfection of love of God. One day, little Nimai was given by his mother some nice sandesh and fused rice and some shredded coconut and very, very nice, tasty things to eat. And then she went to perform some chores. She came back and she saw that Nimai just left the whole plate of the sweets and the coconuts and the rice, and he was eating dirt. Sachimata was beside herself with grief. She said, Nimai, why are you eating dirt? I've given you all these nutritious sweetmeats. Why are you eating dirt? And little Nimai looked at her. By this time, he learned how to talk very sweet, broken words. He said, Mother, there's no difference between dirt and sweetmeats and rice. Because after all, sweets and rice are all coming from dirt. So why should I discriminate between dirt and these things? It's all one. So I'm eating dirt. Sachi Devi said, where did you hear this crazy philosophy? This philosophy that everything is one. He said, no, everything's one. Dirt, sweets, rice, one. She said, it may be true that they're one, that everything is coming from the dirt, but they're not one also. Because if you take dirt and make it into a clay pot, then you could put water in the pot and carry the water. But if you put water and dirt, it just becomes mud, and it's just a mess. Similarly, if you eat these sweetmeats and rice, you will become nourished and healthy. And if you eat dirt, you're going to get diseased and you may die. So although they are one, and they have an origin of similar elements, they are also different. This is practical. Srila Prabhupada explains herein that this Mayavad philosophy of everything being one is impractical. Lord Chaitanya, through his mother, was teaching teaching him the concept of achintya bheda bheda tattva, simultaneous one and difference. Yes, everything is one because everything's origin is the absolute truth. Janmadya shayataha, the Vedanta Sutra tells. Everything emanates from the absolute truth. Parashya shaktiya vavadaiva shruyate. But the absolute truth has multifarious energies. The distinction of the variegatedness within the oneness is what facilitates bhakti and prema. We are eternally one with God. Mamaivam so jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. We are, according to Gita, the fragmental, non-different parts of Krishna. Jivara swarupur krishnara nityadas. But it is the nature of the part to serve the whole. We are eternally one with Krishna, but in the role of eternal loving servants of Krishna. We are eternally one with each other. We are of the same substance and of the same origin. But yet we are all individual. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam me janadaba. Krishna tells in Gita, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us ever cease to be. Nityam nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. There is one supreme eternal, and there are infinite eternals who are all subordinate eternally to that one supreme eternal. The variegatedness in the spiritual platform is not to make us less than God. Why would God do that? In the sense that God expands himself into infinite jivas. The spiritual purpose of the variegatedness of our being, of infinitesimal part of God, is to facilitate eternal, supremely blissful love for Krishna. Krishna's infinite love to each of his parts and parcels, and the infinite parcels love for Krishna. The dynamics of that prema is the highest revelation of the absolute truth. Achintya bheda bheda tattva. When Sachi Devi, simple mother, explained the practical value of this philosophy in such simple terms that if you eat this nice sweets, you're going to become healthy, and if you eat dirt, you're going to be diseased. Who told you this crazy philosophy? It's one. It's one, but it's different. Simultaneously. And when Nimai heard this, he smiled and said, thank you for this very practical philosophy. Then he crawled on her lap and said, from now on, I'm just going to drink the milk from your breast. And she gave him her milk, and he drank it, and he smiled very happily. One day, a Brahman who was on pilgrimage came to the house of Jagannath Mishra. And when Jagannath Mishra saw him, he was so grateful. This Brahman, he was such a pure-hearted devotee, he had a deity of Gopal that he carried around his neck. And he was constantly remembering Gopal, constantly chanting the names of Gopal, and everything he would eat, he would offer it love to Gopal. And he had no home. He just wandered about as a sadhu. Jagannath Mishra said, "You have blessed our home. It is the greatest fortune, the greatest wealth of a householder for a sadhu, a pilgrim like you to come to bless us. Please come in and prepare a meal." And the Brahmin said, "I just take some fruits and roots. That's what I usually eat." And Jagannath Mishra said, no, we will arrange all nice vegetables and rice, and you cook," because he knew that he only cooked for himself. They would have cooked for him, but he would only eat what he personally cooked for his deity of Gopal. So he said, "All right." So they brought all nice preparation and cleaned the whole kitchen, and he cooked and prepared, and he took his deity of Gopal and made the offering. He chanted his loving mantras from his heart. "Gopal, please accept this food." And just at that moment, little Nimai ran up to the plate, picked up a handful of rice, and put it in his mouth, and blissfully chewed on it. And the Brahmin was entranced, closing his eyes, praying for Gopal to accept the offerings. And when he opened his eyes, right in front of his face was this boy eating the offering. This never happened to that Brahmin before. Shocked, he cried out, "Hi, hi!" Jagannath Mishra came running up. What's happening? What's happening? Why you screamed out like this?" He said, "This little boy has spoiled my offering. While I'm offering it to Gopal, he's eating it." And Gopal and Nimai smiled very blissfully and ran away. Jagannath Mishra picked up a stick. He said, "Nimai, why have you done? I must teach you." And Nimai ran, and Jagannath Mishra ran, and Nimai ran, and the Brahmin caught Jagannath Mishra by the arm. He said, no, he's just a tiny little inexperienced child. He doesn't know better. Don't punish him, please. It's my destiny not to eat rice today. Just give me some fruits and roots." Jagannath Mishra begged him, "Please, cook again. We will clean the whole kitchen, we'll get a whole new variety of bhoga, and you cook again and offer it to Gopal." He said, no, too much. He said, "Please, please, please." And everybody in the house made a circle around him, all the ladies and all the men and all the relatives. "Please, cook again." He said, "All right." And Jagannath Mishra told the ladies, "You make sure that Nimai doesn't get near this offering." So Nimai was taken outside of the house, and they were all playing with Nimai while the Brahmin was cooking, and then he made up the plate, and he was about to make the offering, and the ladies were saying to Nimai, "Why did you? Don't you know? You don't even know who this person is. You don't even know where he's from. How you're a Brahmin? How can you just eat food from somebody you don't even know?" And Nimai said, "I'm a cowherd boy. Cowherd boys always like to eat food cooked by Brahmins." And they smiled and they laughed. "What is he talking? Such tricky words," he says. And he got them laughing and smiling. He was telling jokes and he was doing all nice little dances that made them so totally enchanted, they completely forgot what was happening and where they were, anything. And Nimai snuck away, and they didn't even see that he left them. And he came right while he was offering. Namo Brahmanya Devaya, begging the Lord to appear, and suddenly he felt, "What is this?" And he opened his eyes, and Nimai was just a few inches away from his face, chewing on the rice, his hand in his mouth. "Hi, spoiled my offering. And Jagannath-Mishra came with the stick, running, and Nima ran away, and Jagannath-Mishra ran away, and he ran away, and the Brahman was saying, no, don't hurt him, he's just a humble little boy, he doesn't know better, it's my destiny. And Jagannath-Mishra said, if I don't teach him, how will he ever learn? And Nima ran in a room and closed the door behind him, and the women were protecting, and Jagannath-Mishra, he wouldn't have hit Nima anyway, he just wanted to scare him. And now Nima was in a room, the door was closed, and Jagannath-Mishra said, please cook again. He said, I'm not going to cook again, it's too late. Some fruits and roots, that's what I usually eat anyway. Only by God's grace can we eat. We should be conscious of that. Later on, Lord Chaitanya gave this example, that even if you are a wealthy prince with a whole kingdom, and the best cooks in the entire world make a feast for you, if you have indigestion, you can't eat. Or if you're just about to eat and somebody insults you and it breaks your heart, you lose your appetite. Has that happened to you sometime? So we shouldn't take anything for granted. It's only by the grace of God that we have food at all, or even have the power to eat it. So Jagannath-Mishra was pleading, please cook again. He was saying, it's not meant for me to eat today. It's not the plan of my Gopal. So he refused. And at that moment, Nimai's elder brother, Vishwarup, entered the room. He's Nityananda Balaram expansion. So beautiful. And he had such humble characteristics. As soon as the Brahman saw Vishwarup, he said, whose son is this? They told him, Jagannath-Mishra's son. And Vishwarup, so gentle, respectfully bowed at the feet of the Brahman. And he said, we are so fortunate that you have come to bless our house, but we are so unfortunate that you're our guest and you haven't eaten. Please cook again. He said, I've already tried it twice and now it's late at night. And Vishwarup said, it's not so late. And he begged and fell at the Brahman's feet, please cook. And everybody else in the house fell at his feet and begged, please. And he said, all right, I will cook. Jagannath-Mishra said, where is Nimai? The lady said, he's in the back room sound asleep. There is no worry. So he was in the room sound asleep, and from outside, Jagannath-Mishra bolted the door. The Brahman cooked. Just when he was about to make the offering, Yoga Nidra, not Yoga Nidra, Nidra Devi, the goddess of sleep, entered the house. And Sachimata, Jagannath-Mishra, everybody fell asleep. Sound sleep. Except the Brahman. He made the offering. He chanted the mantras, he did his yantras and his mudras. And as he was making the offering of Naivedha, he looked up, and there was that little smiling Nimai, taking handful after handful of rice, eating it. The rice was falling from his mouth. this was too much. It's already after midnight. He cried out louder than ever, "Hi, hi!" But everyone was asleep. And little Nimai smiled while he was chewing and food coming out of his mouth. He said, "Why are you so upset? You call me to eat and I come and eat. Why are you disturbed? You've called me with love and devotion. I cannot refuse your offering. I have come before you because I am that Gopal that you've offered your life to worship. Just see." And suddenly, that Brahman saw Nimai manifest an incredible form. He was Krishna with 8 arms. 4 of his hands were holding the conch shell, the lotus flower, the club, and the Sudarshan chakra. 2 of his hands were playing a flute, and one hand was holding a pot of butter, and the other hand was eating it. He saw his complexion was dark, like a beautiful, beautiful bluish monsoon rain cloud. His eyes were like fully blossomed lotus petals. His lips were ruby red, like the bimba fruit. He was standing in a 3-fold bending form. The Kastubamani was decorating his chest. There was a garland of forest flowers that was extending below his knees. He was wearing cloth that it was as brilliant gold as lightning. There was wonderful, wonderful, long, curling, blackish hair circling his moon-like face. There was a peacock feather in his hair with a beautiful little crown. And he saw around the child the forest of Vrindavan. Kadamba trees, tamal trees, banyan trees, peepal trees. He saw the river Yamuna flowing, the Govardhan hill. He saw unlimited gopas and gopis all playing with the Lord and offering beautiful chants of love for Krishna. He saw Narada and Brahma and Shiva and Sanaka and Sanatan, the rishis and the devas offering flowers and prayers to the Lord. He saw unlimited Surabi Kamadhenu cows with full udders of milk, all mooing in ecstatic love for the Lord. This was just the ultimate perfection of his constant meditation in life. When he saw it before his own eyes, in ecstasy, he fell unconscious. And little Nimai touched him. And when he touched him, just thrilled him with ecstatic bliss. And he came to consciousness. And he looked up at this beautiful form of the Lord. And then the Lord revealed the secret. He said, "You have called me to accept your offering, and I have accepted it." He said, "Birth after birth after birth, you are my loving devotee. You do not remember, but I am reminding you, in your past life, you were a pilgrim Brahman that came to Gokul Mahavan, to the house of Nanda and Yashoda. And at that time, I ate your offerings then. And I revealed myself the same way as I am to you now at that time." He said, "Because you worship me with the love of your heart, Your offerings are irresistible. They attract my heart. I always come to accept what you offer me. And today I've come to fulfill all of your desires. I have descended into this world in this golden form in order to spread pure love of God to towns and villages everywhere through the Sankirtan of the chanting of the holy name. Now you please remain in Navadvip for some time and watch my beautiful pastimes, but do not tell anyone who I am or what you have seen. And then little Nimai, that incredible form of Krishna, again transformed into little Nimai, was eating the rice. And he ran away back into his room. When the Brahman saw this, he was in uncontrollable ecstasy. He cried out. He started crying out like anything, Gopal, Gopal. And as he was just intoxicated chanting Gopal's name, he took that rice that Nimai was eating, and not only did he start eating it, but he was so beside himself in happiness. That rice was so pure and so sacred that he was rubbing it all over his whole body as he was eating it. And he was rolling on the ground, weeping and crying, Gopal, Gopal. He was shouting Gopal's name so loud that Nidra Devi left the house and everybody woke up. Jagannath, Misha, Sachi Devi, and all the family came running, and they saw him rolling on the ground with rice all over his body, crying, Gopal, and then, what's happening to this Brahman? And when he saw them, he became very sober. And sat nicely like a Brahman. And he said, what happened? What happened? He said, I have made my offering, and Gopal, everything is fine, you know. Oh, they were so happy. So you're eating now? He said, yes, I am eating now. Somehow he was restraining his ecstasies, and he wanted so bad from the core of his heart. He was thinking, if I tell them that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, my beloved Gopal, the Lord of all the universes, the beloved of Nanda, and Yashoda, Nanda, Yashoda, Nandana, Vrindavan, Chandra, is living in their houses, their little boy, they'll be liberated forever. But they just think he's an innocent little child. I have to tell them, but I can't tell them. Because I promised I would not tell. So he never left Navadvip after that. He would just go around begging from house to house as a pilgrim, and every day he would spend some time just watching the beautiful, beautiful pastimes of little Nimai. One day it was Ekadasi, so there were no grains. And Nimai was crying. So everybody knew what to do when Nimai cried. They chanted the holy names. But as they chanted, Nimai cried louder. This was very strange. It never happened like this before. He cried louder, they chanted louder. But he kept crying. incredible. The baby's crying wildly. More people came into the house and chanted even louder.